the Institute's been going, I calculated before I came up, we are about to embark on our 13th year, and it was founded in 1999, and it was established not because the Orthodox decided they wanted to be in Cambridge, but the Metropolitan Anthony of Souros was awarded an honorary Doctor of Divinity from the University of Cambridge. And this is legend. I don't have absolute evidence for it, but I am told the legend says that the Regius Professor of Divinity, David Ford, suggested to Metropolitan Anthony that some kind of institute be founded in Cambridge. And the important thing about that is that we did not ask to be there, we were invited. And we were invited because the Cambridge Theological Federation, which comprises houses from the Roman Catholics, from the Anglicans, two houses, Anglican houses, the Methodists, the United Church, and now it has an associate membership of a Jewish organization, which can't be a full member because you have to subscribe to the Trinity to be a full member, but it's extremely useful for Jewish-Christian relations and discussions. And we were asked to be a part of that, I think, because of a sense in the West of some deficiency, something lacking, which they felt that Orthodoxy could bring. And that certainly proved to be the case. I would say in Cambridge, we're on a kind of trade route of academe. People come through from all parts of the world. We bring East to West and vice versa. That's true of the scholars who come to us and also true of the students. Many of our students come from Eastern, Northern Europe and from the States. And there they meet and work with, alongside students from different Christian persuasions. And much of it is missionary activity. It's a surprise to discover how many of the problems of Western Christendom Orthodoxy seems to have an answer to. And to give one example, I was sitting at lunch next to a good lady, a Methodist, a lecturer. She was giving seminars on the Christian doctrine of the atonement. And when I put certain Orthodox positions, this was a revelation to her. Now, similarly, when we discussed the doctrine of man, and she plainly had been brought up in the Calvinist view of the total depravity of human nature, and I said very gently, well, the Orthodox don't actually believe that. We believe we still have a remembrance of what we were meant to be. And of course, we have evaded the problem of the conflict between faith and works by the doctrine of synergy. Now, all this is something which is not only new to many Western Christians, but often a release from problems that they've never been able to solve. I'm a Shakespearean by profession, and I have always felt that Shakespeare had a view of human nature which did not come from his Protestant background. There are people in his plays who are capable of doing something godly and right, as it were, by feeling, by instinct. They are not totally depraved and unable to do anything right except by the grace of God. And I'm sure that he would, had he had the chance, have been Orthodox, because I've recently been writing on the subject, and concepts like the nous, it's certainly there in Shakespeare, even in those plays which are ostensibly set in a pre-Christian time. There are characters who have a perception of what the divine will is by some faculty which the West can't give a name to, because they are caught up in the scholastic way of thinking and the Greek logic, and that is not the way characters in Shakespeare plays work out what they should do in a moral situation.
And
how did I come to this? It's one of God's little jokes, and you must forgive me if I sound irreverent, but in a sense I'm a fraud. I'm only a theologian by accident. I'm a literary man. True that books are about life, and life is about theology as well as many other things. But I came back to Cambridge in retirement from my chair because they were very blunt. They said, we can pay 2 lecturers for the price of a professor, so here is a golden handshake, please retire. And I came back to Cambridge because that was where I began and where I first taught and where all our friends were. And I also came back because I knew the Institute was going to be founded. Now, I waited patiently for 3 or 4 years, and nobody asked me to do anything. And I kept on saying, you know, I am available, I would like to help. And then somebody, Father Michael Harper, who was also came over from Anglicanism, he got me made a director. And at the time, the Institute was going through serious problems, both financial and administrative. And I remember the board meeting now. I could see like a dark cloud coming on the horizon. Eyes were looking towards me, and finally the question was asked, David, would you consider going in as administrator, honorary administrator for a year, and putting things right in terms of structure and organisation and finance? So I accepted the position for a year. Very difficult for the then principal, who understandably felt that somebody had been put in over his head. We worked out a very good working relationship. I said, look, I've worked in a department with 2 professors, and we began by saying, we will never do anything unless we agree, and if we don't agree, we will never tell anybody else we didn't agree. And that worked for me very well in an academic department, and it worked very well with the then principal. And we got a lot of the problems sorted out. But he had a wife in Finland who wouldn't live in Cambridge, didn't like Cambridge, had a little boy about that high, and he was going home once a month to see his wife and family. And in the end, he found it too much, and he resigned. And then the board came to me and said, David, would you possibly consider not only being honorary administrator, but being honorary principal? And I said, yes, you have no other alternative. I'll do it for a year or so. And here I am after 6 years, and now when I talk about retiring, panic comes over the board faces. So I think that I'm here for a while. Well, we're certainly within the Cambridge Federation well integrated in the best sense. We have never had a student who woke up one night and said, I'm really a Baptist. We have had a certain amount of flow the other way, but we are there teaching orthodoxy, and as I explained earlier, often presenting orthodox views which are a solution to problems other Christian denominations have and have never really found a solution to. The case of St. Gregory Palamas is a prime example, because I was saying to somebody very recently, one of the embarrassments is that we are asked to offer Christian worship, which we do, but we also are expected to attend the worship of other Christian denominations. Now, the art, the blessing, the skill of worship has been, to my mind, lost. They really don't know how to do it. They talk to a domesticated God. God is the only way I can explain it. The sense of the holy, of the awesome, is not there. And we consequently get a very large attendance at Orthodox services because people are experiencing something they have never met before. It's not an accident that the present Archbishop of Canterbury, Rowan Williams, one of his 3 experiences of God in his adolescence was at an Orthodox liturgy. And he's always remained very concerned and interested in orthodoxy. So that's the impact on the Institute. We also have a necessary impact in that there is no institute or educational body teaching orthodoxy at all levels anywhere in the British Isles in English. There was an attempt a few years ago by the Greeks to found a seminary, but it failed. So it means that if not just the laity, but if, for example, somebody has been invited to become a priest or a deacon, if he's a married man, there's nowhere else where he can get instruction except at the Institute. Otherwise, he has to go to St. Vladimir's in the States, or perhaps Balamand, and he has to learn Arabic. Or back to Russia. And the Russians are now educating their priests in France. They bring their priests from Moscow, Russian-speaking lads, educate them in France, and then send them to England to a minister. And it takes years before they're acculturated and manage the language. So what we are hoping is the Council of Bishops, which we've only had for 18 months in England. America has had a Council of Bishops for years, but we are hoping at their May meeting that they will formally adopt the Institute, and that will be of great assistance to us, but also of great assistance to them, because it will mean that they can train their laity and partially train their clergy through us.